Today, we're going to be looking over the shoulder of a candidate doing their instrument rating check ride in a Cessna 172. Over the next few videos, we're going to go through the full flight portion of a typical IFR check ride. For the full series, check out the page on our website linked here or in the description. You can play along with us on your own sim or fly the real thing if you're nearby. We're on the ground at Capital City Airport in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The check ride our DPE has planned for today is going to take us to Deck Airport, 9 Delta 4, and then over to Harrisburg International, and finally back to Capital City. We've completed the oral portion and done a good pre-flight of the aircraft and started it up, so it's time to have a look into the cockpit. Here's a rough checklist of the tasks that will be evaluated on during the flight portion of the check ride. There are some tasks we've left off, like instrument flight, that will be evaluated sort of throughout the flight, but these are the actual action items we'll see. To complete these tasks, we're going to depart from here on a so-called round-robin IFR flight plan, which we'll program into our GPS, the Garmin 530 with WAS. We'll tap FPL, then push the cursor. Our departure airport is Capital City, KCXY, enter. The first waypoint is the Ravine VOR, RAV. This is followed by Deck Airport, 9 Delta 4. After that, it's Harrisburg, KMDT, and then Capital City again. We filed for 5,000 as we'll be eastbound initially, and the AROCA for this area is 4,200. We'll put the same route of flight into ForeFlight so that we could use that as well. The DPE has told us to expect these approaches on the check ride: the VOR DME into 9 Delta 4, the ILS to runway 31 at Harrisburg, and the RNAV 26 back into Capital City with a circle to land on runway 12. The ground rules are that we'll have the hood on for most of the flight, simulating IMC, and can only take the hood off when instructed by the DPE. We should fly every approach to minimums and to the missed approach point. If the examiner doesn't instruct us to take the hood off and tell us we have the runway in sight, we should execute the missed approach and published hold until instructed otherwise. This will be a somewhat challenging check ride, probably more so than what you might be expected to perform on the real thing. For example, we'll be relying heavily on our abilities to fly with the VOR, including a full approach and hold. Many examiners are de-emphasizing this nowadays. We'll also be doing the entire flight within the IFR environment. Some check rides will only start out on an IFR flight plan and then cancel and do the rest of it VFR. You can and should use all the automation available to you in the aircraft, including GPS, ForeFlight, and autopilot. But there will be times when the DPE will quote-unquote fail some of this equipment. Let's pull up the taxiway diagram on ForeFlight and set up the frequencies. First is the ATIS 134.95. We'll set that in our COM2 and flip it active. We'll get our clearance from the ground controller, who's on 121.9, and flip that active on COM1. Tower is on 119.5, and we'll leave that on COM1 standby. Our first waypoint is the Ravine VOR. Let's put that frequency, 114.6, into our NAV1 active. The unit idents the station for us. We're able to receive the signal right here from the ground. That might be a bit unrealistic, where in the real aircraft you'd have to climb up a bit to get the signal, but here we see it's active and we have a DME reading of 22.9 miles. We'll turn on the receiver on COM2 on the audio panel to listen into the ATIS. Here's the broadcast. Now we've got our frequency set up, let's call for our clearance. Capital City Ground, Cessna 518 Foxtrot Tango, request IFR clearance to Capital City with information Mike. November 518 Foxtrot Tango, Capital City Ground, cleared to Capital City Airport via radar vectors to the Ravine VOR, then is filed. Maintain 5,000, departure frequency 124.1, squawk 3155. Cleared to Capital City via radar vectors to Ravine, then is filed. Maintain 5,000, departure on 124.1, squawk 3155, Cessna 518 Foxtrot Tango. November 8 Foxtrot Tango, read back correct, advise ready to taxi. We've been cleared as filed, so what we have set up in our avionics is correct. We'll put in our squawk code of 3155 and make sure we're squawking mode C, altitude mode. The GPS shows our desired track to the Ravine VOR of 041 degrees. Let's twist the OBS to set that into NAV1. Let's get ready to call for taxi. Runway 26 is in use. From where we are, we should expect a taxi via Juliet and Alpha, so let's call up. Capital City Ground, Skyhawk 518 Foxtrot Tango at the East Hangars, ready to taxi for IFR departure. November 8 Foxtrot Tango, runway 26, taxi via Juliet Alpha. Runway 26 via Juliet Alpha, 8 Foxtrot Tango. As we start our taxi, we're going to be doing our instrument flight deck check. We'll do what's called serpinating, or turning back and forth gently along the taxiway. The turn coordinator should move with the turn, the ball should move opposite, the DG should move with the turn, and the magnetic compass should reflect the direction of turn. The airspeed indicator should read 0, the altimeter should read within 75 feet of field elevation, and the AI should be straight and erect. The VSI should be on 0, but if it's not, it's acceptable as long as we account for the error in flight. At the hold short for runway 26, we're going to flip over to tower and set our assigned departure frequency 124.1 into standby. We're going to complete our pre-takeoff checks, turn on all the lights, and we're ready to roll. Capital City Tower, Skyhawk 518 Foxtrot Tango at runway 26, ready for IFR departure. November 518 Foxtrot Tango, Capital City Tower, fly runway heading, runway 26, cleared for takeoff. Runway heading, runway 26, cleared for takeoff, 518 Foxtrot Tango. So we'll roll onto the runway, get lined up, and go full power. We're going to be holding runway heading initially as instructed by the tower. We'll be expecting our handoff to departure. November 8 Foxtrot Tango, contact departure. Over to departure, 8 Foxtrot Tango. We'll flip our departure frequency active and check in. Harrisburg departure, Skyhawk 518 Foxtrot Tango, 1,200 climbing 5,000. November 518 Foxtrot Tango, Harrisburg departure, radar contact, Harrisburg altimeter 3004. 3004, 518 Foxtrot Tango. Departure is keeping us on runway heading for a bit, but we should anticipate being told to turn direct to the VOR at some point. It's around this time that the examiner will take control and have us put our hood or view limiting device on. We won't black out the outside world in the video, but on the check ride, you'll only be seeing the instrument panel. November 8 Foxtrot Tango, turn right direct ravine, climb and maintain 5,000. Direct ravine, climb and maintain 5,000, 8 Foxtrot Tango. We'll hit direct, enter, enter, and fly the new desired track of 046 to the VOR, making a standard rate turn. The examiner is now going to fail your GPS. We'll simulate that failure by turning to nearest mode on the VOR screen on both the 530 and 430 unit. It's a bit of an odd way to fail it because we do still have the full radio capabilities of the units along with the DME readout for the Ravine VOR. In addition, we also have the GPS distances to other nearby VORs displayed on the unit, so it's not the same as what a real GPS failure might look like. What it does do is force us to use the VOR to navigate. We flip over to VLOC mode with the CDI button, and now let's twist the knob to get a direct route to the station. That's 045 course. Remember, the winds were at a 210, so it would be mostly a tailwind at this point. We're going to level off at our cruise altitude of 5,000. Let's set up the autopilot. This is the CAP 140 autopilot. We've already got the correct baro setting in there. We'll turn it on with the master switch all the way on the left. We'll use the knobs on the right to set our altitude of 5,000. We're going to push nav so that the autopilot tracks the VOR course and keeps the needle centered. And we'll run some cruise checklists. With that, we've got a little time to breathe, and we'll need it because things are going to get pretty hectic from here on in. We'll pick that up in the next video, which you can head over to the website now and see. We'll deal with our first approach into Deck Airport, a VOR DME approach. Click the link or in the description to see the full flight series. See you there!